Hi, I'm Eric Linask. We're here at Editor's Day in Santa Clara. And on the program with me is Saurabh Modi from Echelon. Saurabh, thank you for joining me.
Sure.
So let's talk Internet of Things. It's an industry, certainly it's a huge buzzword. It's an industry that's been growing exponentially over the last several years. What's your play in the IoT world?
Echelon has been actually in the IoT world for a long time. We've been sort of connecting smart grid meters and building automation and now into lighting systems. Slightly different from the IoT that you hear in the market. I mean, there's all this talk about 50 billion devices and by 2020 and $10 trillion but the fundamental basic is how are you going to actually connect all these devices? That's the first case, right? And then second is how do people see value from those connected devices? And this transition is going to occur in the next few years, right? And so Echelon at least is, I think, well positioned to be riding that wave because we've been in that business. I mean, we've got 30 million connected smart meters in Italy today, right? And how many people can talk about that big an IoT network, right? And the industrial part of the Internet of Things is actually going to be very huge. It's going to hit us like a tsunami, and it's coming really soon.
Well, and presumably that's where the dollars are for spend as well. So that bodes well for everybody. What specifically, you mentioned now getting into the lighting aspect. Talk about why, and sort of where the value proposition is there.
Sure. Take a big industry and, like building automation or lighting. It's a huge industry. And lighting in particular is going through a disruption and a change. This disruption is actually coming from LED lights. So everybody is voluntarily throwing out their incandescent lights and replacing them with LED lights. And so this huge market, something like 40 billion lamp bulbs in a year is going through this massive transition. And we're just leveraging that transition because when people actually go and replace this, they're asking, what do we do about controls? How do we make it a little more efficient for us? How do we improve comfort levels? Not just about lighting or dimming, it's about comfort levels of the occupants, right? And so this huge transition is occurring, and our controls are actually well positioned to leverage that market today.
So what exactly are your controls doing?
So our controls, for example, so there's actually, if you look at lighting, there are three classes of operations that take place, right? Previously, they used to use just plain old switches, right? And
yes,
turn the light on
off.
Very, very operational, right?
Sure.
Then people started paying more and more attention to energy consumption, right? And how can we optimize on energy across lots of lights, across the whole building, across the whole neighborhood. Now people are focusing on a third wave, and that is, how do I improve productivity, or how do I, by changing, say, the color of light, or how do I improve safety, how do I improve maintenance? All these things are turning into, turning lighting from a cost center into an ROI for the customer, right? And we connect all the lights, and we give you the operational efficiency to connect all of them. And you can do energy consumption, you can do scheduling of lights, you can maintain them, you can increase safety, and you can increase productivity today.
So where does some of that data come from that you reference around productivity and health and such, as far as how those lights are displaying?
This really comes down to what is IoT, right? I mean, it's not only about connected devices anymore. It's about the data behind the connected devices, right? That's actually providing value to the customer. So for example, I might have a particular preference to dim the lights to a particular level. I might like the lights to be a little bluer or, a little warmer. And so I can adjust these on a personalized basis. Right, This is actually the big difference that's actually occurring, and it's resultant from controls being available and connecting all your light bulbs together, essentially. Right? And we're talking about not in your consumer space, we're talking about the office space, the commercial space, the warehouse, the industrial space. Right? So there's a lot of opportunities coming as a result of all the innovation happening in LEDs. I mean, the science behind LEDs is quite amazing. I was at a conference in China. I just got back a few days ago, and people were talking about some amazing capabilities that these new light bulbs can do. But to harness that, you need to have controls, right? And so we're providing the controls.
Are these things that you're talking about automated, 100% automated, or is there manual intervention involved as well?
Well, there's both. I mean, you set some sets of preferences and you get it going, but at some point it can take up and start automating. I mean, the point of connecting all these devices together, the first step is to actually get to some level of automation.
Sure.
The second step is to get to some level of intelligence, right? But the fundamental basic is that you need to connect them all together to actually get to the point of intelligence. And
who are you targeting at different business at the business level for as far as the decision maker that is going to end up being your customer?
That's a really good question, right? I think we are I mean, one of the things that we see with lighting is we want to make sure that it's a strategic asset to the end customer, right? And so the end customer for us is sort of the facilities manager, the person who's actually deploying and maintaining and ensuring that lights stay on and that comfort levels come around. But it's going slightly beyond that as well. It's not only the facilities folks, but it's also the CIOs and the CFOs who are measuring, how much energy did we consume, how much did we reduce. From an energy side, what is the comfort levels of the people there? Are we, because of the comfort levels, are we improving productivity? So it's sort of slightly breaking some of the traditional ways of how you approach lights, right? But our focus is definitely with the lighting channels and focusing those channels on making them understand the strategic value of lighting today.
Very interesting stuff indeed. We spent a lot of time talking about lighting. What other areas of IoT are really providing some key opportunities for Echelon?
So I think when we talk about strategic lighting, we should understand what that means, right? If you want to be successful at IoT, you've got to get your network pervasive. There's no better way of getting your network pervasive than through lights, because lights are everywhere. So now you have the ability to add things like sensors that will do all sorts of measurements, not just your occupancy measurement or your daylight harvesting. Suddenly you have CO2 levels, you have temperature measurements, and you can associate those with your building systems, your air conditioning systems, which, by the way, is also part of Echelon's business. Mm-hmm. We've been in the building automation market, and we have all these network controls that control HVAC systems. And so connecting that to lights suddenly provides a clear differentiating value for the customer, right? Because when they adjust the lights, or when they say lower the blinds, they can adjust the lights. And when they adjust the lights, and lower the blinds, maybe they can adjust the air conditioning, And so we provide this capability today. Right? And we're well positioned to actually leverage this. Yeah.
Interesting stuff indeed. Certainly an interesting take on IoT, but certainly one very beneficial to a lot of businesses if you get in those. And certainly love the idea of
a smart building.
The smart building, but certainly the lighting just being the pervasive network.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic approach. So, Rob, thank you very much for being with us today.
Sure. Pleasure. Thank you.